All this pain we got in take, learning how to love our own mistakes. 'Cause we all share the fear to bear this atmosphere. So you are never alone. I know the stars will collide and make no sound. I told the water to rise and I can't swim. I go to sleep in the fire to hold you now. So you are never alone. And I choose to not obey shortcuts to love our own escapes. Could not find a place where all these thoughts dissolve. I'm nervous. I'm nervous. We all look up to the stars to find something, an irreplaceable light towards the stay. I know that we'll be alright. I need you now, so we are never alone. I'm nervous. I think it's time to believe that I'm nervous. That the answer's right in front of me. We are down. We never explain. I get this feeling that we're never enough. That the truth is like the water as it swallows us. All our pain. We're building castles in the dirt and the dust. If the worst is yet to come, then I don't know if we'll make it
Oh, lads. Amazing vocals. Never doubted them. So While She Sleeps just put out the album Sleep Society recently. It's their 5th studio album. It's incredible. Has some very special guests as well, including Simon Neil from Biffy Clyro, who actually sings on that album track there. And when I was speaking to Loz and Matt recently, and we were discussing the new album Sleep Society, I asked them a bit about, it felt that, to me anyway, that there's a lot more, the album is a lot more reflective. It deals a lot more with mental health and it focuses inwards, whereas before a lot of the stuff was very politically driven. Here's what they had to say about that.
Yeah, it feels like, for me, this is the first album where we've transitioned from talking about our outlook on the world we live in. Before, we've been a little bit more politically driven, and on this record it's talking more about our experiences, and it's a lot more personal, this album, than anything we've done before, I think. And instead of like looking at it as a big picture, it's more like looking at the change right at like ground level.
I was going to say, yeah, like make the change within yourself that you want to see within the world, right?
Yeah, and then that then actually goes on to apply to the things that maybe we were talking about in the last record, but it's like making the change in you, and then that will then apply to the things that we were talking about before.
Every individual member of this band has been through something, you know, more recently over the last couple of years, from like since we recorded a previous record, that has been about trying to restore some balance and trying to figure out where that balance lies. And I feel like that's what's coming out in the record now, is that sort of progression of learning an inner self as opposed to sort of pointing finger or blame kind of outwardly. It's about starting from inwards and finding balance there to then move on to sort of the political sense. You know, when we first set out as a band, there were so many like death metal bands around us, and it was about being sort of as gross as possible. And I think from that point, from the North Stands for Nothing, when we first ever met you, Dan, like, it was about talking about things that, you know, we were very much a part of, or things that we'd experienced personally, as opposed to things that we hadn't necessarily experienced. And I think this record in particular is just a continuation of that journey, really.
It's the Radio 1 Rock Show with Daniel B. Carter, in session at Main of Hell. Welcome to the Slave Society! Take your mind, the tunnels of not the change. If we get step up, step out of the way. We're broadcasting on a different way. On time if you're ready to pray. It feels so different here now. Like spiders under my skin. We're paralyzed, but you and I are still alive. I'm not looking for a way out. Just a deeper meaning to the here and now.
How's your new album sound live? Oh yeah, banging. Whilst He Sleeps in session. When I was speaking to Loz and Matt, we were discussing some of the band's influences and love of stuff like things like The Prodigy, 90s dance music, drum and bass, and how those influences have subconsciously shaped them as musicians. Is what they had to say about it.
I think also mixed with this like philosophy that we started bringing into the studio, where it's like, if it kind of makes us feel like edgy or like is that, you know,
Nerves are good.
yeah, a bit of like a good nerves about like, oh, that sounds really exciting. We kind of started being like, well, let's just go for it, you know, like not being too precious about, oh, where does that sit us in the genre space and will people like it?
Yeah.
You know, our fan base has been so incredible over the years of like standing behind us, and it's really given us this like confidence and this like this freedom to sort of be more open and progressive in the studio. So yeah, I think that's just a natural progression, and we're like, if it kind of freaks us out a little bit, then just throw it in because it's exciting.
So this is a really nice realization that happened on this album. I realized that our audience are happy when they can see us happy and confident. It bounces back. If we're confident in what we're doing, then they're happy to see us happy, and they can tell that we've made something we're proud of, and that actually like lives inside it and comes back.
I think that's one of the things that we are growing through now as well. Like, there's a massive change in that dynamic of being young songwriters and being like amazed that people love your band, and then switching that over to the other side of being like, you know, you've been doing this long enough now to recognize that people do like this band, and stop sort of second guessing like yourselves as writers, because we've been doing it long enough now to understand that people do give a fuck about this band and they want us to succeed and they're behind us. So it's that whole transition, I think, of us being like, cool, we can focus on things that we like to do and music that we really can like show off all dynamics of the band.
The Radio 1 Rock Show with Daniel P. Carter. Live in session at Maida Vale.